This is the Sales Bible Podcast, episode 280, How to Power Up for Profits, an interview with Kathleen Gage.
Welcome to Sales Babble, the podcast that shares selling secrets for non-sellers. And now your host, Pat Helmers.
Hello, Sales Babblers. This is Pat Helmers, and this is the podcast that shares selling secrets for non-sellers. We've got tactics and strategies that can help you become successful in sales and love it, because anyone can become great at sales. Today, I'm very excited to have Kathleen Gage on the podcast. She's a business strategist who's made it her mission to teach sole and small business owners how to become visible in a market that is loud and noisy. She believes that in order to do that, you must be committed to who you are and to have a willingness to take risks and play full out. Again, I'm so excited to have Kathy visit us here. So, with no further ado, let's get to it. Welcome, Kathleen. Are you ready to babble?
I am ready to babble.
Kathleen, you are the creator of Power Up Profits, or the author, or the creator? How would you say that?
Yes. Yeah, my company name is Power Up for Profits. It's actually under the umbrella of my corporate name, which is Turning Point. And I wrote a book in 2013 called Power Up for Profits, The Smart Woman's Guide to Online Marketing. So my whole branding is around how people have to really power themselves up in order to get profits. You know, it's really about being proactive. So
why did you focus on profits? What was that? What was the instigation of that?
Because I like money. And I like to teach people how to make money. And quite seriously, a lot of times when I work with solopreneurs, small businesses, and oftentimes they don't want to have the discussion of money. And money is really important, as you know, in business. And if we're not willing to have that discussion, you're not going to focus on what your bottom line is. And especially women. You know, I don't want to sound real sexist here, but women are the worst. You know, it's like when you say, how important is money to you? Oh, it's not important. It's like, oh, no. We have to change that mindset, because with the money, you can run your business at a higher level and you can do more of the things that you claim you want to do, give back to the community, nonprofits, things of that nature.
But it's interesting. It's not just money you're focusing on. It's actually the profit portion of money versus just, revenue or
Right.
costs, or there's any number of things that are in that. Why profit?
Well, if you don't focus on being profitable, you're not going to be in business for very long. And it's amazing how many people say that they're entrepreneurs and say they are running a business, but they don't even know what a P&L is. They don't keep monthly books. They don't pay their taxes until the end of the year, and then they get a big tax bite and they go, ooh, what happened? Early on, when I started my business, I started out as a speaker, a corporate trainer and speaker. And I saw many speakers get into financial problems because they would get quite a bit of money for speaking engagements, but they didn't figure in and they didn't factor in the fact they were going to have to pay taxes. And I knew more than one person who had to file bankruptcy because it was too big of a bite.
Yeah, I've seen this myself over and over again, where there's people who have a real passion about this business thing that they have, but they don't want to get into the details. And they say, yeah, we need to make more sales. But I'm like, well, what exactly are our costs? And they really don't know. Yeah, I don't know what that's about. I think that's absolutely, so you're focusing on the right stuff. That's kind of my point.
Well, I've been in business 25 years, so I think I know a little something about, the importance of profits. And I've worked with all different types of people in the years that I've been running my business. Prior to that, I actually was in corporate America. I've been in broadcast media. At one point in my business, I got such a sweet offer from a company to suspend operations and go run their company, that for 18 months I ran this company during the .com era. So, I've had a fair amount of experience in what it takes to have a viable company.
Which actually brings me to the whole reason I invited you to Sales Babble, because you can't really have profits unless you have revenue. You can't have revenue unless you have sales.
Right.
And it was you have a lot of experience in selling, and I thought maybe we could walk through some of the things through Power Up Profits, or your experiences elsewhere. what advice we have for our sellers here, our sales babblers?
That's a really good question. First of all, I think people have this this fear of the word selling. They think it's some big monster, when in reality it's about having conversations with people who would benefit from your products and services. And so you have to have the conversations, and it's amazing how busy people keep themselves to avoid that conversation. Picking up the phone, huge. I actually was talking with a colleague of mine earlier today. She runs a multi-million-dollar executive recruiting firm. And at one point, the economy took a dip, her company took a dip, and she went from, at that point, she was $1 million business, to where practically overnight, everything got wiped out. And we were talking about, when that happens, what do you do? And she said, first of all, I pulled the covers over my head for a day, and I felt sorry for myself. I went into the fetal position, and then once I got through that, it was like, okay, who do I know that I need to talk to? Pick up the phone, go to networking meetings. Now, the thing about networking meetings is you want to make sure that they're the right networking meetings. I know a lot of people, they go to networking meetings and they don't even know if that's a good investment of their time. And again, it goes back to the profit and loss, and it goes back to profits, that whatever you invest in your business, whether it be time, money, energy, you should be looking at what your return on investment is. And if you're going to a lot of networking meetings, have you analyzed the return that you're getting? I'll give you a great example. In my own business, I've done a lot of virtual work, and I have traveled to a lot of conferences, like Podcast Movement was.
Oh, we talked about that earlier. Oh, by the way, folks. Yeah. Kathleen, we were both at the very first Podcast Movement in Dallas.
Yes, we were.
many years ago.
Yeah, I was going through John Lee Dumas's program.
Oh, yeah.
I was a Dumas fan. But so I had this client that was going to all these networking meetings, and I said, have you ever analyzed how much business you've gotten out of these networking meetings? And it turns out she was spending a fortune, not getting a return. And for me, what I decided about 2 years ago, I thought, okay, I'm going to focus on my local market. I live right outside of Eugene, Oregon, and I'm going to join the local chamber. I'm going to get really involved. I volunteered for a committee because I know that you can get visible that way. And I said, if in a year I don't turn a profit from my investment of time and money, I'm not going to rejoin. And after a year, I analyzed and evaluated, looked at my numbers, and for the amount of time I had put into going to the meetings, the money was the least of it. It was my time. It was not worth the investment. And the chamber is a great chamber. I mean, I have to say, for the right people, it's a good fit. It was not for me. So I made a conscious choice that after a year, I wasn't going to renew. But I gave it 100% during that year. So, that's the thing that I encourage people to look at with their sales in order to generate revenues. Are you giving 100% to your business day in and day out? Or if you work for a company, are you giving that company 100%? And 100%, you know what that is. And it's not watching the next cat video on YouTube.
No. I spent a lot of time in chambers of commerce, and for some people, it's exactly the right fit, but for others, it's not. And it all depends.
For me, the best fit for chambers is for me to do a presentation more than just sitting at meetings and networking with the same people over and over. It's for me to actually showcase what I do, because I'm a corporate trainer, I'm a keynote speaker, I'm a marketing strategist. So if I can do a 15-minute presentation and generate leads out of that, well, the next step is, what do I do with those leads? Because a lot of times people, they get into busy work. You have to get into very focused work. And one of the best tools for sales, any type of sales, is picking up the phone and talking to people.
Well, I'm glad you came back to that, because I was going to go back to that, because you said something.
I can read your mind. I took some ESP classes, and it's working.
Because I just interviewed somebody today, actually, who was talking about how they want to avoid picking up the phone, and various lead generation processes that they're using, doing more automation and email and things like that. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was so interesting, because I'm a proponent of picking up the phone. But before I explain how, I'm not going to explain how I do. I want to hear, how do you approach it?
Okay. Well,
I get to talk
there's-
all the time on this podcast.
Okay.
How do you approach this?
It's your show. There's a couple of things to look at. When I'm selling, let's say, a $27 ebook or a $27 e-course, I'm not going to necessarily pick up the phone to convert people to a $27 program. However, if that $27 program gives me a lead for a $1,000 program and the profit margin on that $1,000 program is 95%, which I have programs like that, well, I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to have a conversation. And the first thing I'll say is, thank you for getting that product ABC. Would love to find out what you really enjoy about it, and start engaging somebody in a dialogue. So it really depends on what I have to offer, whether or not I'm going to pick up the phone. But for a high level sale, if I'm, let's say it's going to be a keynote presentation, when we're looking at tens of thousands of dollars, you better believe I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to have that conversation. And it may take 4 or 5 or 6 conversations before somebody actually says, yes, let's go ahead and get that contract all taken care of. So my process is, somebody gives me their card. I say, when's a convenient time to call you? I'd love to have go into more depth on our conversation. And if they say, can you call me at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I've got that spot open, I'm going to be on the phone at 10 o'clock in the morning making that phone call.
What's that originating phone call? How would that go? Would it be you followed up and say, oh, thanks, I saw that you purchased one of my books, or what?
Yeah, it would depend. It would. Oh, I'll give you a great example. It's a real time example. I have what I call the 100 Club, and it's a program. It's a 30-day program. I let 12 people into it, where I teach them how to book a lot of podcast shows. And it's not just the mechanics, but it's really about the mindset. It's a $1,000 product or service, I should say. And what I do is I go through the list of people who bought my $47 podcast directory. So I look at that list. These are warm leads. They're not hot leads. They're warm leads because they expressed an interest in something to do with getting on podcast shows. So pick up the phone and I say, hey, I just wanted to thank you, first of all, for getting the podcast directory. Tell me about your experience with getting on podcast shows. So I engage them in a conversation to find out, do they really have a need to learn how to get on shows? Do they have a fear of getting on shows? What's their objective? That starts a conversation. So I don't have a list of scripted questions that I'm going to ask them. I really do engage in a real-time conversation. And if I can tell that they're probably not a fit for my program, I won't even bring it up. Because if they're saying, well, I tried 10 programs and all 10 instructors were terrible, I didn't get any result, well, I'm going to be just as bad as those other 10. So I already know that they're not a fit. If they say, yeah, I have this particular goal and I just need some help in how to find the shows, then they're probably a good fit.
Gotcha. So if you could break your call down into some elements, what would that be?
Hello. That would be element number 1. Just saying hello. The elements would be, first of all, to determine if they're a good fit for what I'm going to be talking about. Another element would be to find out what they've done to achieve the goal that they say they have. If they've done nothing, then that I have to start the conversation differently than somebody who has tried 10 different things, and those 10 things have gotten them a certain result, and they're just looking to go to the next level. So the next thing would be just the exploration questions to find out where they're at. Do they invest in their business? If they invest, what types of investments have they made? What have the results been? And then from there, if it makes sense, I let them know about the program. And I one of the things I do say, this is a very important element. If I really want to work with them, I'm not going to be so cool that I'm going to say, okay, well, here's the program. I'm going to say, I would love to work with you. I'm confident I can help you. And what I need from you is the commitment that you would do the work that I outline. So I really let them know that I want to work with them, if in fact I do.
I love it.
Oh, and let me give you another element. When they say, yes, I'm ready, A lot of this is so second nature to me that, to break it
Right.
down.
You don't think twice on
the
it.
spot. Oh, no, you're putting me on the spot. One element is being myself. I have a lot of fun on the phone, and the more that I can be myself, the easier the call's going to be. But it's to ask for the sale. It's amazing how many people don't ask for the sale. When they say, yeah, that sounds like a good program, say, great. How would you like to take care of that? I can take Visa, MasterCard, check, PayPal, or if you want to send me cash, I can certainly do that. So I really do ask for the sale, where oftentimes people miss that golden opportunity.
A buddy of mine, Rick Carlino, is owner of the makerspace that I work out of in St. Charles, Illinois. And he's been giving tours to, prospective members of the. And the other day he goes, Pat, I found this great new way of closing sales. I'm like, oh, really? What is that? He goes, first I give them the tour. I walk them all through there. When they get all done, I said, would you like to sign up now? And she says, as of now, I've gotten 100% of everybody I've asked said, sure. He goes, what I used to do is say, I'd thank them very much for their time. And they'd say, oh, they'll think about it. And I go, okay, great. And he said he'd move on. Because now I ask him, would you like to sign up now?
Absolutely.
I think you're exactly right.
Yeah. And I've had situations where I wanted to buy something, and it's like, well, when are they going to ask me for the sale? And I've even said, wow, this sounds like a great program. I think I would be a great fit for it. And I've had occasion where people never ask for the sale, and it's like, you need some sales training. Hey, I've got a training program for you.
It's funny. I do that too.
Yeah.
When I see bad sales, I just turn it around on them.
I've had that happen where they're like, well, what is it you do? Well, as a matter of fact, let me tell you.
It's funny you should bring that up.
Funny you should ask. And how would you like to take care of that?
What we're mostly been doing is we've been talking about some tactics on a cold call. Mm-hmm. But what is an overall strategy that people can use if they really want to become high performers? If they really want to take their selling to a higher level?
It really depends on the industry, but a few years ago, I actually suspended operations in my business, and I joined a career development company. And basically, we taught middle management and upper management, executive level type people how to find the hidden job market. And when I joined the company, the owner was spending a fortune on advertising to basically get leads. And what I did is I actually turned it around, where we started offering free training classes on how do you put a resume together, how do you negotiate a salary, how do you find the hidden job market. And we just started offering these free presentations in our office. We had a beautiful office space and a full training room. And by doing that, we were getting hot leads. These people obviously were very interested. And then on the back end, my consultants would do the initial conversation and then close the deal. So a lot of times doing presentations, do what we call a dog and pony show. You're doing a showcase of your expertise, your product, your service. So it's a demonstration. And that's why when you go to, let's say, the home garden show or whatever it may be, and you have people out there demonstrating things, in those cases, they're getting people to make an impulse purchase. Now, I don't like impulse purchases because I don't want people to regret. And this is another thing that people don't look at, is that you have that period of buyer's remorse. So your job is to make sure that you have a really tight sale, and the sale really isn't over the minute that a contract is signed and the initial payment is made. It really is about assuring people that they've made the right decision. And that's something that I always do. When somebody makes that purchase, I say, you made a great choice. I will take very good care of you.
I totally agree. This is something I learned a few years ago. I was taking a course on from I can't remember who it was, but it was something like that. First experience needs to be perfect, especially if it's a service that they're going to be paying monthly to. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure that once they sign that contract, you're immediately on top of them. Like, how can I help you? I'm going to get you going. We're going to get you started. Keep that momentum going, so if they feel like things are going along really well the first few weeks, they could stay for years.
Absolutely.
Because they'll feel like, even if they slow down, they'll feel like it's not them, it's me. I'm the one slowing down, and this is not a good month, but I'll pick back up next month. And it's incumbent on the buyer, on the seller, to make
absolutely. Sure. And I love sales. I actually do, because when there's the right fit, when it's the right person for what I have to offer, I really get excited because I know their life is going to change. With this whole podcast program I sell, when I see somebody have that breakthrough of getting through their own fear of actually getting on shows, it is just incredibly exciting to me. But I also am willing to walk away from a sell if I feel that the person either isn't going to do the work and I'm just going to be another one that they say, oh, she didn't deliver, or if I just don't feel like there's an alignment of who they are with what I have to offer, if they're going to be a jerk, if they, there's a number of qualifiers for why I would say I really don't feel this is a fit for you. And
yep.
Some people have a hard time taking no for an answer. I had one gentleman that he kept writing and saying, when are you going to let me join your program? And finally I said, okay, obviously you're not paying attention, or I'm not being clear on the fact that I've said no. I'm not going to sell you. I don't want you in my program. I'm just not a fit for you. I can refer other people, but I really don't feel that I'm a fit for you. And I don't know what it was. He just thought he was going to convince me that he was just the greatest thing since sliced bread. I should have him in my program. It's like, oh, no. I have what I call my
You touched his heart somehow. But sometimes we have to fire clients. You don't want to fire this client. You don't want them to be a client from the get-go, right? So this is the thing, too, is that these kinds of people who do get in your program and love you, you're going to be able to upsell them. They're going to give you referrals. There's a lot of great things that are going to come from that.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people forget that there's a lot of selling that still happens after you've closed the deal.
You're so correct there, Pat, that there's other opportunities to really enhance what they have to what you can do for them in order to create a better experience. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yep. When we were talking, you actually had something you wanted to give away to our audience.
I do.
Regarding the Power Up Profits?
Yeah, Power Up for Profits. It's actually a checklist and a training video on how to find podcast opportunities, because podcast shows are a great way to showcase your knowledge. I have a client who's a fine artist and she does retreats. She was on a podcast show and she got really excited. She said, oh my gosh, somebody called me because I was on the show and the sale is going to be about a $10,000 sale. And I'm like, yes, and those are the victories I love. So I'm giving away a checklist and a directory or a video training. And I believe you've got the link. It's
powerupforprofits.com/checklist.
Boom.
And I'll stick that in the show notes. I'll make sure and put your looks like your Twitter and your LinkedIn, and and we're connected on LinkedIn. I know we are because we just did this morning actually. So, I believe we did. Didn't we? I think we did. Yeah. And you have a Facebook group too.
I do. It's called Power Up for Profits. And so if anybody goes to Facebook and they put in Power Up for Profits, they'll be taken to the group. They ask to join. And basically, we talk about marketing, sales, visibility, all of that.
Excellent. If you could give our listeners one piece of advice they could go and take action on this week, what would that be?
Oh, thank you for asking. I would say one piece of advice is set some very specific goals and then reverse engineer of what does it take to achieve that goal. Like, let's say I want to make $10,000 this week. What do I need to do to generate $10,000?
I love it.
Bada boom, bada
specific. Boom. All right, Kathleen. Hey, thanks a bunch. I mean, this has been really fun powering up with you.
Hey, it's been fun babbling with you. Let's power up our babble.
I could really identify with Kathy's experience and her recommendations that we need to be really careful about what networks we're a part of. She's all about experimentation, trying different things. And when you do try it, go all out, as she mentioned. But if the kinds of people that you want to sell to, prospects that are qualified for your products and services, if they don't show up at, say, the Chamber of Commerce or some meetup or Rotary or BNI or any number of venues out there, stop going there. Instead, focus on the places where your people hang out. Of course, the best way to learn that is to ask your existing customers, where do they hang out? And go there. Now, everything that we've talked about, I've taken the time to write it all up in the show notes. And if you go to www.salesbabble.com/280, you can find all the links that Kathleen mentioned, as well as the podcast checklist that she mentioned. I wonder if I could ask you a favor. One of the best ways that people hear about Sales Babble, it's through listener reviews. If you could go on your favorite podcast app and leave a 5-star comment, hey, I would really appreciate it. Word of mouth is how podcasts spread. In fact, I got a comment right here from Brendan at Star Phoenix. He says, quote, rock solid, need more sales, listen to Pat, this is top shelf stuff. There aren't many collections of better battle-tested sales wisdom than what you'll find on the Sales Babble podcast. Pat's created something really special here. Oh, thank you, Brendan. Hey, I really appreciate that. It is awesome, awesome stuff. If you've got a question or a comment about this episode or any episode, do not hesitate to reach out by clicking on the Babble Me button on the website. I would love to hear what you think. Thanks again for setting aside a bit of today listening. That's all I've got for today. So until next Tuesday, take care and have a highly successful and profitable selling day.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Babble podcast. Find us at www.salesbabble.com.